All right, so this will be a video on Easter and why it is a false tradition. It does not align with what the scriptures teach about the death and resurrection of the Messiah and why we should not be celebrating it. So, starting in Matthew 12 here, but he answered and said unto them, An evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there shall no sign be given it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So right there, the Messiah is telling us he's going to be in the heart of the earth. He's going to be dead for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, the tradition is that it's Friday evening to Sunday morning that he was passed away. And that does not fit 3 days and 3 nights. Like you got Friday night, Saturday morning or Saturday day, Saturday night, and then Sunday morning. Well, you're missing two pieces there. You need 3 days, 3 nights, so it adds up to six, but you're missing two of the parts of it. So why then does the church celebrate it on Sunday? Well, because they're following their traditions instead of the commandments of God. They're not actually going by the scriptures. They're doing what they want to do in their own eyes. Um, and you can see this more how it doesn't align with the scriptures in other parts. So Matthew 27, I believe. Matthew 27, verses 62, 63. Now the next day that followed the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that the deceiver said, while he was yet alive, After 3 days I will rise again. So after 3 days, okay? So if he died Friday and he rose on Sunday, that's not after 3 days. That's in the middle of a 3 day thing, and that's not even completing 3 full days there. It says this again in Mark chapter 8, verse 31, I believe. So Mark 8:31, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected of the elders and of the chief priests and scribes and be killed and after 3 days rise again. So there it is again, after 3 days. Then you'll see other spots that say on the third day and then, after 3 days and 3 nights. So this all only lines up if he rises at the very end of the third day after 3 days and 3 nights. Okay. And you can't twist that and say like, oh, it's just a Jewish idiom or whatever. Well, I haven't seen any evidence of that. People seem to claim that, but they bring no legitimate evidence for it. Like he said it very clearly, so you cannot twist it. 3 days and 3 nights. That doesn't mean anything else than what it says. And you can see this in Luke 24, that when they got to the tomb, he was already gone. So look, now upon the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulchre, bringing the spices which they had prepared, and certain others with them. And they found the stone rolled away from the sepulchre. So it's very early in the morning already, and the sepulchre, the stone, is already rolled away from it. So biblical days began at morning time, so anything before the dawn of the day, that would be considered the Sabbath. So he rose already on the Sabbath. And they entered in and found not the body of the Lord, Yeshua. And it came to pass as they were much perplexed thereabout, behold, two men stood by them in shining garments. And as they were afraid and bowed down their faces to the earth, they said unto them, Why seek ye the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee, saying, The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again. So he was already gone again, and they found him Sunday morning, but he wasn't there. So he was already gone because he had already risen on the Sabbath day. So he is Lord of the Sabbath. He rose on the Sabbath day, and he died on Wednesday in the midst of the week, like Daniel chapter 9, verses 26 to 27 prophesies. So it says he's cut off on the midst of the week, which means middle. That's just the KJV Old English. But so why then do they celebrate Easter? Because it comes from a pagan tradition. Easter, that's Ishtar, bunnies, eggs, those are fertility symbols, and those actually have nothing to do with the Messiah. And they just adopted that holiday and, started to combine elements and they tried to add that stuff onto it. But this is an abomination in the eyes of God because we're not supposed to be doing traditions that break the commandments. Look at also what they do. They have you prepare all the stuff for Easter on the day before, which is Sabbath, the Saturday, and that profanes the Sabbath day because you're not supposed to be buying or selling on that day. Check Nehemiah 10 verses I think 31. Um, and then it's also in Nehemiah 13. You'll see that you're not allowed to buy or sell on the Sabbath day, and they teach against this with the Easter celebration because everyone goes out and buys their stuff on Saturday. And then also you'll see that they're eating unclean things like ham, pork. That's it's unclean biblically. The dietary laws say that you cannot eat those things. And it even prophesies in Isaiah 66, God's going to come and slay people who eat this stuff in the tribulation. So don't be one of those people. So like and then also the hot cross buns that are traditionally celebrated on Easter. Those that's cakes to the Queen of Heaven. That's what they would do. You can even see this in Jeremiah chapter 7, verse 18. I'll start in 17. Seest thou not what they do in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem? The children gather wood, and the fathers kindle the fire, and the women knead their dough to make cakes to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto other gods that they may provoke me to anger. So this is what they were doing back then. This is evidence this was like a thing that existed. And they would gather wood, which is an idiom for, remember in Numbers 15, they would gather sticks. That guy gathered sticks and he was put to death because he did it on the Sabbath. This is an idiom for breaking the Sabbath day. And they bake their cakes to the Queen of Heaven. That's your hot cross buns. And, it's to Ishtar, the Queen of Heaven. And that's what we've inherited. This stuff is not biblical. It's a pagan tradition, and we're not supposed to be doing it. And here's what the Messiah thinks about it. But before that, I'll say, remember also in Revelation 2, he warns you not to eat food sacrificed to idols. That's exactly what this celebration is. With the hot cross buns, the eating the unclean ham, and then you break the Sabbath. Like this whole thing is an abomination to God. And here's what he thinks of it. And here's what the Messiah says in Mark chapter 7 about these traditions. So he answered and said unto them, Well hath Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, This people honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. For laying aside the commandment of God, ye hold the tradition of men as the washing of pots and cups, and many other such like things ye do. And he said unto them, Full well ye reject the commandment of God, that ye may keep your own tradition, making the word of God of none effect through your tradition, which ye have delivered, and many such like things do ye. So they're keeping these traditions and they're teaching like false things that God never commanded. And this, he's calling them hypocrites and says that their worship is vain because if they actually wanted to worship God in spirit and in truth, they would be doing the things that he commanded. They would be keeping the Sabbath day, not profaning it to do the pagan holiday Easter. So if you actually want to honor God, stop celebrating this holiday and instead start actually keeping the things that God commands, like the Sabbath day, the dietary laws. That's how you worship God, by keeping those things and teaching other people to do so. So that's what I got. Don't be doing this holiday. Keep the commandments.